warrior ethos is about love. Sparta, why did the Spartans make great warriors? Because they love Sparta.
Right.
You understand? Like when you listen to any interview, if the Medal of Honor winner should happen to be alive, which is rare, but if they are, and you're like, well, why did you do it? He goes, because I love the man next to me.
Hello, Joey. How's it going today?
I'm well. I hate the humidity. That's all I have to say. That's all I have to say today.
Alex,
It's made me
is it humid down in Florida?
Yes, definitely. It's definitely still humid. It's nice. The weather's breaking. It is going to be October here. So instead of 98, it was 92. Fall.
See, it was October here in New York City about 3 weeks ago, and I was loving it. And then 2 days ago, it got all Florida-y again, and I'm not about it. Not about it.
Well, Alex, thanks for jumping on, and really appreciate it. You and I have known each other. We actually have known each other for a couple of years now, but we've really got to know each other just over the last bunch of months. I've enjoyed your perspective on the world and kind of your philosophical approach to life and all these sorts of things, which I hope you're willing to share a little bit with us today, because I think you're passionate about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm an open book, so.
Yeah, I
Nice
get
to
that.
hear. It's nice.
And then it's a very loose conversation. So maybe if you don't mind, just to kind of like level set everything, just kind of give a little, kind of like as much as you want to give historical background, and maybe kind of how you got to like what you're doing today, and kind of like your approach to things. And then we're going to jump in with just questions as we go along. So totally casual.
Sure thing. So, yeah, first of all, thanks for having me on. This is an intention of mine to do a bit more of. I allow others in my business, marketing company, they're all the face of it. I like to be in the background, if you will. So this was an intention I set when I saw the email. I was like, oh, perfect. It came to fruition. With that being said, I guess the important parts, before I started in this current business and what I'm doing, I really lived my life like a CIA agent. I had multiple accounts all over the place. I'd have different names. You didn't know what part of the world I was in. We could go to dinner and totally be friends. You'd be like, that guy was awesome. But I don't know anything about him. You know, so it's quite a change here. Starting, very young age, I was born to two heroin addicted parents. One got clean right after I was born. Son of a hippie. Went to a different school every year of my life, all the way up in high school, moved all around this country. In a very young age, I decided to go into the Marine Corps. I did that. Weapons and tactics instructor, door gunner in the Marine Corps. Got out of the Marine Corps. Then I traveled in the civilian world, Africa, Central South America, all that stuff. And for a little while, I really attempted to get out of war fighting altogether. And then I opened other businesses, and it just kept calling me back. Then there was a pivotal moment that happened in my world, in life, and other people's world, and just called me back to it. And it's my purpose, and I had to do it. So that's the 2-minute version, if you will. And from there, any more questions or any more in depth, feel free.
Yeah, tell me more about when. I mean, look, Joey and I were just talking about this before. We both have experience. Joey's an artist, an actor, someone who's been in New York City in that capacity for her whole adult life. I've been an entrepreneur and a business guy and a finance guy for my whole adult life. When you say a war fighter, when you say the things that you've said to my son, Winston and I, my son, we don't have any perspective for that. So when you say war fighter, what does that mean to you? What does that mean?
Yes.
Culturally, logistically, what does that mean?
Great. I hate to do this to you. My dogs are going to bark every once in a while. I do have 2 working dogs. And like if the if the Amazon guy comes, they want to take his leg off, if you will. Yeah. So that'll be in the background. That's the other part of the house. Warfighter. I mean, well, to me, it was life. Meaning, yes, structured warfighting, Marine Corps. I was the first American flight in Kosovo, liberated that country, Bosnia. 97, Albania, country fell apart. We went in and we took, people out of the embassy because, when it fell apart, it went fast. pictures of or videos of the end of Vietnam, going into the embassy right on the roof, like that type of thing. I mean, that's about as structured warfighting as you get. Also in the Marine Corps, went to Africa, Congo, one side, the other side, and, you kind of just bang it out and, one side wins. Other than that, growing up in drug addicted neighborhoods, I mean, going to school is war.
Yeah.
And it's not, a demographic thing. It was more financial. It's like, poor white, poor Spanish, poor, but, at that level, it's just a very primary living. Every resource, Maslow hierarchy of needs, resources, security of your food, water, sex, sleep, like the primary needs of any human being and animal human being and everything. Every day is a fight to get those things. It's like where I come from, why is respect so important? Because if somebody takes your lunch money, everybody takes your lunch money. There was a great movie. It was with Matthew McConaughey. It was about the South, and it was where blacks and like whites like kind of separated, lived together, even during the Civil War and all that.
A Time to Kill, I think.
Yeah, that's it. And there's a scene in there where like the army comes and takes his corn. He was trying to hide it, and they took this whole thing of corn out of there, and they went and fought him. And the guy that took the corn from the army was like, "You're gonna kill a man over corn?" He's like, "Well, if I don't have this corn, and our hogs don't eat, then we don't eat in winter, then we die. So am I going to kill you for my life?" Or, it wasn't about the corn. It was, if I don't have this corn, well, then guess what? That is life and death. So those resources, the way I grew up, that's the way it is. And I'm unraveling some of it now. I mean, coming out of the Marine Corps, I was definitely a bit high strung. Everything was war. Somebody look at me square, it was like full combat. Somebody breathe wrong, full combat. There was no impulse control. There was not much impulse control. I say that humorously. Translate on this business too. I try to play nice guy in business, and hey, maybe this, cracking everybody. I mean, when I came out of the Marine Corps, I had 4 jobs the first year. They're like, you can't choke everybody at the water cooler, Alex. Like, this is, you're in the civilian world. Really, you can't do it. And that wasn't just the Marine Corps. I mean, that was upbringing. That was the importance of disrespect. Was like, I mean, you can't let somebody disrespect you just because then, unfortunately, everybody does. So war fighting, I would call it life in the way I am. I'm like, I don't understand it when I talk to adults and they're like, I've never been in a fist fight in my life. I'm like, wow, that happens on this planet? This crazy planet of people spinning around here. So good that they don't. But when I say war fighting, it has been life, for just meals, homeless as a kid at times, fighting for a meal, fighting for the next day, fighting for the next, whatever it may be. So yeah, and then, going into business, I got ran over a few times, bad deals. Anybody that's been in business long enough gets it, and I was like, well, this nice guy stuff definitely doesn't work in business, at that time. So yeah.
Do you find that the people that you met along the way in your military experience, or even back in your childhood experience through your business, do you find that there were similar archetypes in each of those categories, or were they more like specific that in this environment I saw more of these types of people, in this environment I see more of these types? I don't know, like what.
Well, that's a great question. I've done a few podcasts. Nobody's asked me about archetypes before, but that's fantastic. I could break it down to a few. Like Carl Jung kind of did that. Categorize it: warrior, lover, king, wizard. Why are a lot of Marines, we'll call it Navy SEALs, career military guys, I would say maybe even football players or things in that kind of warrior mode of their day-to-day operation. They get stuck there.
Yeah.
I mean, I did for a long time. There's where does it come from when I say, hey, walk with your chest out, or hey, walk with your shoulders back? Like, yeah, that's a good idea. I see a lot of people with great posture look very weak. There's no capability behind that. And where it came from subconsciously, the symbolism of it during the days of armor and knights, and, one guy the armor would get too heavy, so he would take it off. And he'd be standing on a pile of dead bodies, like, hey, but he was actually the most vulnerable. You got it? Like, hey, here's my vulnerable parts. I dare you. Okay. Right. Now that symbolically, I would say, translates to transitioning in archetypes, as Jung would say. Well, if you go from warrior to lover, you got to take off the armor. You got to come home. You got to be the most vulnerable thing. You got to be like, when I was in Marine Corps, I had 2 daughters, and I'd go home and be like, hey, first sergeant, like, can I go somewhere like dealing with a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old and a wife at that time? And I'm all of 20 years old. I don't even figure out life myself. I was like, war was much easier. Like, stick me on a helicopter. Let me go fly somewhere. It's black and white. You win, they lose. Like, hey, this is easy. The rest of this emotional stuff.
So when was the turning point for you?
Say I'm still working on it.
But there's a lot of awareness. You're speaking with an enormous amount of awareness about it, that it's something that was making you unhappy or causing you discomfort in some way.
If I had to write a hero story, God gave me one gift: to look for truth. And I came out of the Marine Corps, and yes, I mean, look, at a young age, I got plenty of drug addicts, plenty of alcoholics. I mean, my dad, died of that, in the streets, literally. So at a very young age, I just looked around, was like, no, there's something way better. There's something way better, like from a very young age, And, I continued on that path. So even in the Marine Corps, I was getting out. I was like, I achieved a lot in a very, very, very short amount of time. And I achieved a lot. I was on a pathway of easily could have been high ranked 20-year career very easily. And I was like, no, I'm just going to keep doing the same thing. And I love Marines, and I still do to this day, but there was just something more still calling for me. So I've been on a journey of truth, self-discovery, being a better human being. My biggest ambition, I would say, if it was a superpower, is ambition to be a better human, fanatically.
And you would say that's a personal journey, or would you say, did the Marines set you on that path? Say that again.
Beforehand, that was definitely, the Marine Corps was part of that. Even where I come from, people don't go to the military like, oh, you're fighting for the man, the government's going to make you do this. Like, I don't come from a military background. I come from hustlers. So the best thieves I know is my father and my uncle. I don't come from people that, go in the military, become cops. There's nobody played cops and robbers because nobody wanted to be the cop. Everybody was playing robber, like, but real life. I didn't come from it, but
the structure required was life or death for you. You needed that kind of structure.
Well, I had an experience. I was in high school, and I did this Memorial Day event at a church, and I was holding the American flag. And to this day, I tell it to students, and it still makes me weep. So at Memorial Day events, they play, like, every service has its own anthem or song. Marine Corps hymn, Army has a song, that type of thing. So they would play, the Army song, the Air Force song, and the veterans of that service would stand up, in recognition. I mean, 15 feet from me in the front row was an old man in a wheelchair, started play the Marine Corps hymn. I mean, this old man locked eyes, and everybody around him was like, hey, Grandpa, just sit down. And he was like, get your hands off of me. And I thought, what makes a crippled man stand?
Right.
And I never seen that much honor, respect, love. I mean, you name it. And yeah, they call Marines fanatical, but yeah. So when I was like, what is that? Like, I never seen nothing like that. And I wept as a young man. I was like, I don't even know what that is. And then I went in the Marine Corps shortly after it, but that's what I was looking for.
Can you explain the Sacred Seven and where it came from and all that stuff?
Sure. In this theme of, discovery or self-awareness, self-discovery, me and a few good men, we get together, and we are all fanatically ambitious about being better men. And we said, hey, what are sacred principles that we just, first of all, we as men could live by, that would be one, lead to a better life for us, ourselves, our family, and the good of all humanity at some level. So we got together. I mean, we hashed it out like a round table. Hope, is this quality there? Is it courage? Is it this? And we just kept drilling down to them. If we can poke holes in one, then, it would come off the board. Or some are kind of wrapped up in others. It's like, all right, I've seen somebody kind of do something similar, and it was a half an hour. They got to have my sacred 60 principles. I'm like, well, you're getting a little redundant here. Like, I'm a Marine. We got to keep this simple. I got to write it with a crayon, or we're not going to remember it. make humor of it, but there's brilliance in simplicity. You know, if you just make it simple, there's brilliance in simplicity. So at first it was for me and a group of men to, live our lives by, and then, really transition to the business for myself and more into humanity. And others are, doing it their way. Some wrote a book, Lions Raised as Lambs, and we're bringing it to humanity more and more. So influence and being the example and living it.
Joey, when you and I were talking earlier, you talked about your dad as a
May I interrupt there real quick? Just because I realized we didn't say what they were. So that's the story. Courage is number one. These are in order of importance. You can't skip a step. Courage is number one. Number two is honesty, and primarily self-honesty first. A lot of people think they're honest over there. You should really do this, and you should really do that. Self-honesty, and then you can be honest with others. If you're honest with self and honest with others. Number three is integrity. And integrity has really two definitions. We concentrate on both. One is moral integrity, doing the right thing when nobody's looking, for sure. The other is wholeness and oneness. If you get on a plane and you want to fly to Europe, you better hope the airframe's in integrity. Yeah. This is our airframe. This is what we're flying around in this world. So, integrity. And right in the middle, where the rubber meets the road, is commitment. If you're courage to be honest with yourself and others, you live in integrity, you better apply a whole lot of commitment, because you will be tested. That's for sure. Mostly you're going to be tested by that little voice between your own two ears. When's the busiest time in any gym? January what?
Yeah.
When's the emptiest time in any gym? January 13th or so, somewhere right around in there. So that's that commitment to live in integrity. And then the last three, then it becomes your duty to live that way. Then it's your duty to honor. Honor is the sixth, and love is the seventh. So, I can poke holes in it. Like, many people ask, well, just do everything with love. It's like, all right, is it real love if you're not honest? Is it real love if you're not committed? Is it real love if you're not in integrity and whole and one? Is it real love if it's not your duty to live that way? Like, I'll do it on a good day. Well, no, it's when the chips are down that it really counts. Make sense? So that's our sacred seven. Courage, honesty, integrity, commitment, duty, honor, love.
To tell you, Alex, I was, I call it nerve-sighted, nervous and excited. I was nerve-sighted about this podcast today because I was telling Dan earlier, I just don't have a lot of experience with people. I don't know a lot of people in the military. My father was a state trooper in New Mexico for much of my life, but he was not very, while a very loving man, not very vocal about his experience as a cop. I got the impression very early on, he didn't like talking about it a lot. And I'm blown away by how open you are and how much you're talking about love in conjunction with the other six. What are these? The sacred seven, the other six. It's really quite moving for me. Another thing Dan and I were talking about was that we, especially in our today's political climate, it's very easy to say, well, those people believe this and we believe this. But when you really think about it, 98% of us, we all want the same things and believe in the same things. If we would all just talk to each other. And you're really just kind of blowing my mind about what I think a military person is. Certainly, I think of I was expecting you to be quite regimented, structured, preciseful person, if that makes any sense. And I do get a lot of that from you, but I also am getting quite a lot of vulnerability. And would you say that is that comfortable for you, living in that kind of vulnerable place? Do you find any comfort in that, or do you try to avoid it?
No, I throw myself in as hard as possible.
And have you always been that way, or is it a recent realization?
No, it's been a gift since I was very young. I was with a quick stories. I mean, it's supposed to be entertainment, right? So I went back to go see a Marine. He stayed in. We served together, combat, all that type of stuff. He stayed in the Marine Corps 30 years total. And went to his house in North Carolina. Still lives next to the base. I mean, he's a Marine, and we had a barbecue. We're hanging out and such. And he says, sometimes I'm on base and this Marine will walk up and go, "Hey, Master Guns," this is his rank. And he'd go, "Yeah. Seen so many Marines, he would forget half, towards the end, especially when you have so many, But I mean, it was 30 years later. He goes, "Alex, there wasn't a damn day went by I didn't remember you." So I've always been a hard charger. I make myself memorable. They're like, "Yeah, no. We definitely remembered Alex." In that sense, whatever I'm going for, it's definitely all out. And that's been great. And it's been maybe misguided at times is a good way to put it.
Is there a moment you can think of where it was misguided that you could speak about?
Hard charging into, alcohol too much or chasing a buck. That was one hell of addiction. It was one thing to do it. Yeah. Chasing money in my life caused a lot of pain. When I got the purpose and service, then, everything else came. But I would say one hard charging for $1. Like, I know we need resources. I know we need to take care of our family, but yeah, did a lot of silly things. And it looked great at the time. It's like any other addiction. It's like, this really makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, it's just a drink, but it's just, one more business trip. It's just one more day in this business. It's just one more this. And it's like, look up and 8 years later, I'm depressed and body's broken down and going, what the hell just happened in 8 years? So yeah, it could definitely, what looks like a good thing can definitely too much of it could be too much of it.
And when was your come to Jesus moment about that? When was the moment that you looked around and you were like, I've been hitting this hard for 8 years and it doesn't feel good?
Yeah, I've been pretty hard headed. My body was breaking down. I was in my early 30s. And I mean, like, I literally physically, I'm fairly I was in the Marine Corps, I have cardio for days. Like, you couldn't stop me. I could go for days on end, high five. I've been that way a long time. I'm not a huge linebacker, 250 of muscle, but just working strength. I wasn't never really into sports. I worked from a young age, just regular, good old working strength, if you will, mechanics, cars, Marine Corps. And I was in my early 30s, and I would have to stretch for a half hour. I would roll out of bed and I would stretch. These stresses, they say that they're stored in the body. I was the literal definition of stored stress in my body. It'd be one thing after another. And I'm like, man, just like miserable. And I started the Warrior Workshop, which we'll get into at some point. Also how I know Dan and his son. And it just started like one class. It was like, I'll just do this. And friends were asking me, they knew of my prior history, a few, not many, but a few. And it'd be like, one would say, "Oh, I went shooting with Alex," or, "Hey, I did this with Alex." I said, "All right, let's just get you guys together and do it in one shot." And it felt like Superman. I was like, oh, I mean, it was immediate. The first one I did was like on a Saturday. I was like, whoa, that was awesome. And two, it's not just how I felt. It was a transformation in others, enthused, in theos, in spirit, from Greeks, I was like, oh, this is that spirit thing they're talking about. And then Sunday was a high. I was like, man, I just shaved 10 years off. I'm running. I'm doing 4 miles on a beach. I'm acting like nothing happened. And I mean, it was night and day. The alarm would go off Monday to go to the office and I couldn't move. It was immediate and like, whoa. And then who I was being, I was a much happier person. My wife would be like, "Hey, you're doing more of that shooting stuff." And my kids were still at the house and they're like, definitely, we like that other daddy a lot more. Like we like that other husband a lot more. Like, let's do more of that and, we'll figure the rest out. So it was, what was a turning point? It was, I can't say any more black and white. One hurt really bad one day and one felt amazing the other day. And it was black and white.
Yeah. Yeah. I see that a lot in guys that I know over the years in business, where you've got guys that are super, from the outside, you'd look at are super successful from like a financial perspective or whatever measurement you're using to decide how successful they are. But when you actually talk to them and get to know them and they start to let you in, you realize like, oh, you probably would have been a better farmer. Like you probably would have had a better life and enjoyed your life more if you were a farmer. And like it's so interesting that people, I guess we're not taught that, right? We have to figure that out as we go along, because there isn't a thing when you're like in high school that's like, hey, like listen to those feelings, like listen to how your body feels, listen to how what you're being told from like your insides. And that I think a lot of times people are still focused on quote unquote success, that they think once they get the success, then all those crappy feelings will go away. And it turns out that like it's almost worse, because I've been in that position a few times where I've had success in something, and it's worse because now you can't stop because you're successful at it, right? Like if you fail, you can just stop eventually. But like there's nothing worse than just like I totally can relate to the like having to drag yourself out of bed, like that feeling. It's just horrible. And like and it's okay culturally, we have to be like, it's okay to feel that, and it's okay to listen to that, and then change your perspective or change what you do in your life in relation to that feeling, and just be like, yeah, that's not right. Quit. Stop doing that.
You're right. It's an instinctual thing that we're not taught as kids. Hey, you might change your mind 3 or 4 times in your life.
Right.
You might think you really, really want to be a professional ice skater, and you work towards doing that, and then one day you just don't want to get out of bed. We're not taught, oh, you can change your mind.
Yeah.
And you're right, Dan, that we have to listen to our instincts about, I'm not happy. I can do something completely different. And we're not given any kind of blueprint or roadmap for that.
I would agree, in the West, which is understandable. I mean, there are other cultures that maybe do some of that, but, I would say, especially here in the West, we've given this the control tower.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say that thing and that voice between between our 2 ears is actually the dumbest part of us. Yeah, if I got to do geometry, great. But this thing, there's more neurology in your body than your brain. So out of 2 jokes, but it's like, forget that feeling thing, shut up and keep moving. Now that might be appropriate in some areas. If I have to shut off emotion and go get a job done, I totally understand that. You can't let it overwhelm you. It's just that when it does everything, when you're sleeping at night and there's a loud noise and you jump out of bed, that's the part that's smarter. The one that's still working for you when this thing needs to take a break, not your heart, not your lungs. I mean, this thing in science can't tell you half of what's going on in the body. Honestly, it's still such a mystery. So which one's smarter?
Right.
And trusting that a bit more is a bit of a journey.
Right. Joey and I were talking about when a person feels uncomfortable, when they're in an uncomfortable situation, or let's make it more specific, in a military culture, in an environment where you're with other military guys, what is the expectation for discomfort, and how long that you're needing to keep yourself in that mode of discomfort? Is it strictly like mission focused and like I will do what it takes to get there, or is there the same application that we're talking about kind of in the civilian world also applicable in a military environment?
My theory was that you try to avoid discomfort as much as possible.
No.
As quickly as possible.
No.
See, that's my misconception.
No. You
Please
start to
correct
love
me.
it. You become a sick bastard. You're like, all right, what other crazy thing I can do?
So that vibration of discomfort becomes addictive?
Hell yeah.
Wow.
Because what's on the other side of it?
Joy, happiness.
I could do anything.
Yeah. You're unstoppable.
I'll prove it. Show me again. What? Mount what? A mountain? Next. What mountain?
But what does the sense of accomplishment give you?
When that little voice in your head that says no. Why can't somebody do 5 miles walking? Oh, it hurts. Oh no, I can't. This is there's a video where somebody sent it to me. I've been talking about it for a while, but there was a scientific study. They put a spider in this on a piece of paper and drew a line around it with a marker, and that spider would never leave that circle. And then they kind of did it another way where it would like trip over a circle and you could never put that spider back in a box ever. Okay. That's our minds. Who put you in the box? Girl, I'm this, I'm that, he's bigger, I can't. Yeah, you know what? I love killing that thing. No. I'm just doing it recently. And I got off of heavy exercise for a little while. Yeah, I was just enjoying my time of not, I was on it so hard for a little while. And I got myself, and I listened to my own voice. I said, I sound like Al Bundy. When I was in the Marine Corps, when I was in football, when I had the touchdown, when I said, you know what? Screw that. I'm going to beat 18-year-old Marine Corps Alex's PT time. So I'm on that journey right now. And I got pretty damn close just last week. You know why? Because I had to kill off the thing that was lying, telling me that it was better back then. No, it ain't. I'm way wiser. I'm way smarter. I'm way sharper. I'm way better now. Watch. I'll show you. Now quantify it. Here's the numbers. Here's the run time. I beat your...
Yeah. One of the things that I love that you said to Winston and I and the rest of the people that were in the room at the time was about killing the liar. I want to reiterate what you just said there. Yeah, it's basically saying there's a liar in your head who's lying about what you're capable of, lying or what's wrong with you, that's lying about all these things, and it's in your head. You got to kill that liar, because that's the person or the thing or whatever you want to call it that's holding you back, or that's creating this world that isn't true. Did I summarize that well?
100%, because what's that liar really telling you? What holds you back? Self-esteem, all human beings. You won't earn another buck. You won't take that job because you don't think highly of yourself. You don't deserve it. You haven't earned it. Look at like ultra successful people. They might call them egotistical or something, but they got a pretty healthy self-esteem. I am the best of the best. And, huge, big egos, big self-esteem, huge self-esteem. But they do go hand in hand. You want to call it power of positive thinking. If you want to be spiritual with Jesus, he's like, hey, you're loved and you're worthy. Well, how many people feel worthy? You. Few is the answer. So what's the ultimate liar? You remember that thing you did when you were 12 years old, and now you're going to punish yourself over and over again about it? Or you remember, you missed that one dinner, you missed that baseball game with your kid, and then you missed that one thing because you were busy, and then you were over here, and you just don't. And that's the tape recorder. It's the worst. There was a hell. I think living that way is it. I mean, and we all do it. It's called a fallen state. Not all, but it's pretty common in humanity. That's the ultimate liar. So what? You tripped. So what?
Yeah. The world. I think what people don't realize. And I think about this a lot in relation to myself, because I've seen it change for me. The world that we see is put through our own filter. So my world is different than your world, is different than your world, is different than your world. And I also have control over that world, because I can change the filter, or I can change the way that I'm perceiving or believing things to be. Like you're saying, like with when I was 12, I tripped and I embarrassed myself, and now I'm going to beat myself up at 45 about it, right? That's
right.
A truth about the world that isn't true, but somehow still influences my world, still makes it the place that I live every single day. So I think once you start to realize that you have that kind of power to just let, like, the world is only what you kind of imagine it to be, and it's based on all these histories and experiences that we have, and we can control that by creating the ideal that we want to have for ourselves, and then working towards that as like the North Star, the thing that we're pushing ourselves towards every day. And if you don't do that, you're just kind of stuck in whatever's handed to you as your default. Whatever that is. And we're all handed something. Everybody's handed something. And so I think the reason you see that with the ego of like super successful people is because, assuming they, didn't totally just stumble into it and have had to battle it out, which I think 99% of people do have to battle it out one way or the other. I think the only way to do that is just to get to that point where you're just like, yeah, I am the shit. I can control kind of my outcome, and when a bad thing happens, I don't internalize it. I just move on, because I'll figure it out.
Yeah, I would say what I've heard something similar, and along the ways I heard it recently, and I'm using it. It's like my new. The language of God is silence. Everything else is interpretation. So if I'm in this experience, then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, and I can't believe I got a flat tire, and Toyota tires suck, and these Camrys suck. it was just a flat tire. Who made the rest of the movie? You know what I mean? Another possibility is maybe you didn't have that flat, and we've all had this experience. Something bad could have happened or really did happen, and you were like, that was the best flat tire I ever got. You know, you can jump angles quick. I mean, even past, you know, look, I could look at my past and be like, my mother's this and my dad was that. And I was for a very long time. I was definitely a very, you know, angry, you know, at that upbringing for a long time. And then I started Sovereign Self-Defense and I started the Warrior Workshops. And I mean, it was just like an epiphany. I was like, oh, I've just been prepared to be the man in front of the room. See, I can make it a God story or I can make it a victim story. That's my interpretation of it.
You're touching on something that fascinates me, that I talk about a lot in terms of people focusing on their failures and looking at them exclusively as failures, instead of that failure was actually the best thing that could have happened.
Yeah.
Failure saved me.
100%. Can we at least collapse the time on that? Can we just cut the suffering out of it? Like,
Right.
well, I'm talking about myself here recently, because like if something's not going my way, Tasmanian devil, everybody better clear out. It's just like clear the room, like wait for everything to settle down and it'll come back, you know? And I am learning and growing every day. And, you know, that just started to change here recently. I was having a great barbecue with a friend and I got this big smoker and I got this spritzer. The spritzing bottle disappeared somewhere else. And I was like, holy, like everything in this place. I said, all right, let's take a deep breath. And, you know, I came up with something else. I grabbed like rosemary and I made this herb base that I was like, made this brush out of like herbs. And it was so good. We're just like, plan B is always better.
Yeah.
Plan B is actually always better. We said that. We were like, ooh, write that down. We're going to hold on to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and it was just like, yeah. So as far as like, yeah, getting into this and who says it's this or who says it's that. Yeah, is there experiences? Is it your mother's voice? Is it your father's voice? Is it, you know, your uncle's voice? Is it your friends? Is it who's around you? Absolutely. But at some time you have free will and you decide. That's the highest form of discipline, is just a discipline of your attention. Everything else is secondary. Where's my attention? Is it on this task at hand? I think the spiritual people got a little bit wrong. I don't mean to desecrate anybody, but this mindfulness, I'm great. Is there enough stuff in your mind or is it mindlessness?
Say more. Say more.
Well, if I'm with you and I have a bunch of stuff in my mind, am I with you? If we're having this conversation and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm listening to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I got 5 other things and you know, I got to run over there and do that. Or can we be here and have this conversation? Do we want less between this space of you and I? Or do we want more? Less. Your body goes where your attention goes. It's on a motorcycle. If you ever ride a motorcycle, they'll put you in a parking lot. And the first thing you got to do is learn how to look where you want the motorcycle. The wheels this way, you're that way.
Mm-hmm.
You take an aggressive driving course and there's like, they teach you how to go into a spin. You got to, it's the weirdest thing to do. You got to put your attention on one solid point, like a pole, and the car will stop spinning. You can talk to pilots, you can talk to people that ride horses, anything. Body goes where your attention goes. If my attention, I'm a drug addict and I want drugs, somehow there's no money involved, but they get high every day, somehow. Well, if that's love, what's going to happen? If that's success, if that's your North Star, as you said, like, hey, this is what's most important to me, my body, my life, everything goes where my attention goes. So I'm going to keep this in the forefront of my attention. I'm not going to, excuse the French, I'm not going to whore my attention out. It's the most valuable thing I got. Everything comes from that.
Wow.
What doesn't go where your attention goes? I mean, test it. I love Socratic method. What doesn't go where your attention goes? Your attention's on it. It will grow. Life sucks, and that's your attention. Guess what? Every time you leave the house or see anything, you could watch Jesus himself walk on water, and you'd yell at him too. Look at that loser. He had wrong shoes on. Like everything sucks. You know, you can't be out of it when you're on that. And any human being, when I'm saying you, Y-O-U, you get what I'm saying, humanity in general. If its attention is on the world sucks, everything sucks. At least in my life, black hole, you know?
Absolutely. No, I experienced that as well. One little thing can trigger a whole day if you let it.
If you let it.
Dan, how did you find Alex? How did you and Winston end up with
So
Alex?
Stork dropped me off on, no, I'm kidding. That was humor. Go ahead.
So Alex So Alex and I met a few years ago. I think it was a few years ago at this point, at a steak dinner, monthly dinner thing that, my buddy Will organizes with a bunch of Palm Beach guys and, whatever, like it's basically men of means who will get together and do great things and all this sort of stuff. Right. So, as Alex and I have commiserated on, there's a lot of talking. Sometimes that leads to action. Sometimes it doesn't. It's just a lot of talking. But anyway, that's how Alex and I met. And then, my son Winston, who from our family, we don't have a military background in our family, or we don't really like have that in our lineage at all. But Winston has become very interested in that world. And what we do have in our lineage is a follow your path, create your own view of the world. Like that, we do have in our history, and something that's very important to me and that has kind of gone into Winston, I think, as well. And so in the process of Winston at 14 years old, trying to find his way into a world that, I need to find the best people in that world so that he can enter it and go into the right, go off with the right people. I found, I don't know, I say found, but reconnected with Alex in that regard. And we found the Warrior Workshop, and went from there. So, and it's been great. And not to mention also, it's been something that's been very meaningful to me because, Winston's 14 years old. You got a 14-year-old son. You want to connect with him on something. You want to be able to do something together. And this has been something that's been really great that we've been able to do together as father and son. That's not going to last much longer. Like I get kind of choked up. It's not going to last much longer.
It sounds to me like it's been meaningful to Winston in multiple ways. He's spending time with you, and it sounds like he's learning something that's very important and meaningful for him.
Yeah, that's not because Alex is here, but I would say it even if he wasn't here. The thing that's meaningful about what we're doing with Alex is not the shooting. It's not the technical stuff. It's what we're talking about right here.
Clearly.
I say things similar to Winston, but I'm the dad.
Right.
So it's good to have another. That's good to have another strong male who can say something in his own words that he can hopefully like hear these messages and like internalize them, so when he goes out in the world, he's ready.
These are exceptional messages.
I mean, well, what you're tapping into and what's important is a rite of passage for a young man. It's warrior, lover, king, hero. How do you get to just look at history or even fiction or anything? The king used to lead from the front. The good kings did. Well, was a king that always sat in the back and just send off their guys to do it? Is that a good king? Not an honorable one, lead from the front. So it's another one of those things. It's warrior, lover, king. Carl Jung types. The big one was wizards, like where things get to magic when you put it all together. You can create a lot, but was a rite of passage for Spartans. I mean, they were warrior culture, but it could be, American Indian, Comanche, indigenous, rainforest. A man had to hunt or be a warrior, or you had to. Then you can go to the next steps. It's like, okay, now I can have a family. Now I can have kids. But you had to earn it every step of the way. If you weren't a decent warrior, you didn't have wife and kids, you didn't have to worry about it because you couldn't take care of nothing. And through that process, you learned how to, okay, now I have these little ones. Now I have to do this. I have to love my people more, king, working from that. That's why it's in that order, and you can't skip a step. So something from the house, it just popped in. So, what that young man is on that journey of that warrior step, what does it apply to? It could come out in sports. It could come out in many different things. It's like, okay, did you play football? Did you play rugby? Did you, doesn't mean that everybody has to go to war, but tapping into when, makes it through a lot of special operations. They were looking at like, okay, what qualities of a man, like past these tough qualifications and stuff like that. The good majority of a high percentage of sports, it's usually not like the high school swimmer or something like that. It's not the star swimmer for the most part. It's the kid on wrestling that was like third string.
Right.
because it's tough, but he wants it so bad, he's going to keep going no matter what. Your bones hurt, you got to hit the gym, your ears look like cauliflower, your neck hurts from getting cranked on, and I love it so much, I want to do it again, you know?
Yeah.
So that's the warrior journey and the rite of passage, and it's out. Then, you know, I see it in society and business, and I see it in young people. I see it in our society for sure. The YouTube generation shortchange it. Well, I'm this. Well, I watch a couple of videos and I'm an expert. I had somebody 20 years old that was like a life coach. I'm like, are you shitting me? You know what I mean? Like, what? No offense or nothing, you know? So, yeah, I don't know how I got off on that tangent, but I guess, oh yeah, Winston there, he's doing something that good for him. His soul is calling for, and he's listening it's a journey, whether he ever goes anywhere after it or he ever does anything with it, you know, over the next year with me or something of that nature, or more if we have more time together. I trust we would, and I would love to. You can't take that away from a human being. So people look for happiness, screw happiness, go for achievement. It's more long lasting. And that's what he's doing. He put his head to something and he's doing it. You know, he's a fantastic young man. I wish half the adults had his attention. I mean, he's better than a good portion of the adults, maturity wise, in the room. Yeah. And once you're a pickle, you can't go back to being a cucumber. These experiences he's had and is about to have, you can't take that away. That's achievement.
That's right. Yeah. You can't be happy every day, but you can work towards a goal or achieving something every single day. And that's what gets you up every morning. It's not sitting around being happy. I mean, sitting around being quote unquote happy is drugs, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Right. No, it's not too far off. Yeah.
But also, to Alex's point, it's also thriving in discomfort. Discomfort is what makes us grow.
That's right. Yeah.
Learning to live in that space, learning to be okay with this makes me uncomfortable. I'm going to get on the other side of it and be a better person for it.
Oh, life is life, man. And you can try and protect your kids and do everything you got. And at some point in time, they're out in the world and they got to do what they got to do. I mean, this is, you know, you're not going to be around and the worst thing is to protect them too much. Life is life. Well, you know, if you have a swimming pool in your backyard, you would probably teach your kid how to swim, right? Well, the thing is you're already in the pool. It's called life. So you better get to swimming.
Alex, this has been a delightful conversation. You've really opened my mind to what I believed a military man was. Okay. And I think I just had a lot more, my preconceived notion was very heady, a very heady person. You've got so much heart.
Yeah, many are. They just don't know how to do it. And you know, this is why I'm working with vets too in my way. Just weird, and they don't know how to do it. And it's been a journey for me to do it myself too. It's definitely been a journey. But I can speak their language, and it's just putting language to what they already know. The warrior ethos is about love. Sparta, why did the Spartans make great warriors? Because they love Sparta.
Right.
You understand? Like when you listen to any interview, if the Medal of Honor winner should happen to be alive, which is rare, but if they are, and you're like, well, why did you do it? He goes, because I love the man next to me. Or woman, you know, whatever it may be. It's when it's a foxhole and bullets are flying, a lot of country politics, all that stuff's out the window. When it gets down to meat and potatoes of it, it's for the man and woman to your left and right, and we're going to go home one way or the other. And it just gets real simple. It gets down to what's really important. It's actually simple. And that's why they do it, you know? I mean, and I didn't do some of what, you know, I did what I did, and I've been around the world and I've seen what I've seen, but you know, these guys that do it day in and day out and day in and day out, everybody's like, oh, they're just adrenaline junkies. Like, no. Kiss your buddy's hand and put him on a helicopter and don't know if you're ever going to see him again, and see what you feel love is. And then you turn around and you also feel hate. You never felt so much love or so much hate. Then you turn around and you know that one standing over there blew him up. And I'm going to get him. You know, you get the contrast of two things. Life gets broken down to black and white real quick. And then you come back to this earth and you're like, and then this happened and then that happened and people are talking. There's no substance. There's no feeling to the conversation. There's just nothing. You're like, you know, I mean, there's a lot to that. There's a lot more than it. I'm simplifying it for sure, but to convey to a non-combat, I would say veteran or listen, that's police work. You do 20 years of that. You got to see it. You got to pick up a baby. I mean, Little Wayne of all people tells a great story, true life. He was like 12 years old and shot himself, and he was in a drug house, and a bunch of cops came in and all stepped over him, and one grabbed him, was like, "No, take care of this baby." And they were like, "Oh, he's gone." Paramedics were there. They're like, "No, we're not even worried about it." Put him in the car, took him to the hospital, forced the doctor to take care of him, resuscitate him, and he still lives to this day. But you got to deal with that as a 20-year cop, taking babies to a damn hospital every day, gunshots, and it's like, you're going to tell me this ain't about love? He didn't do that because in a manual somewhere, it was page 2 of subtext 3 that, oh, when you find a baby on the floor, this is what you do. It's all love. Now, how do I talk about that afterwards with somebody that doesn't speak the language? That's where the hit in the wall of communicating with others that never been there. That's where it hits a wall. It's like, I'm trying to talk to you about God. It's like a roller coaster if you've never seen one. It goes up, it goes down, it goes left, it goes right. Good time, right? You're like, doesn't sound good to me at all, by the way. How do you explain an experience?
Well, Alex, is there anything you want to say specifically about Warrior Workshop or anything like that? Well, I just want to make sure we get any information out that you want with that. But otherwise, I mean, we've done almost an hour here, so.
See what happens when you're having a good time? Time just flies, doesn't it? Yeah, there is something, and I'm transitioning my messaging a bit. What the Warrior Workshop in Sovereign Self-Defense is about is, yes, personal protection. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's the second rung of that after food and water, security of self, body, all that, resources. Many people in our world really concentrate on that security of resources, the employment, the job, the achievement, like these types of things, but it's all built on sand. So if you don't have security of your own body from you to the end of your fingertips, your psyche's built on sand. And one threat impetus, and you go to the bottom of the totem pole. One little bit of threat and human beings, their psyche, collapses. So really transitioning, yes, there are physical hard skills. Yes, we challenge you. Yes, you come out more competent, but confidence only comes from real capability. You can't talk about it. You can't talk your way to capability. We can read all the books we want on war fighting, but if you don't get out there and get sweaty and put the work in, you don't know nothing. You can read about being a painter. If you don't pull it a brush the, some type of canvas, you're never it, So yes, we will, through the direct physical experience, you will get more capable. The big thing and what I'm transitioning into now, so we're for the average, I get excited, everyday family, you, yourself, your son. I just love it. You guys coming through, that connection, that impact. What the Warrior Workshop is where personal development meets personal protection. See, it's not the gun. If you freeze, or if you've heard that voice before, you've been in a bad scenario, or it could have bad happen, you're like, something was telling me don't be here. Well, why didn't you listen to it? Make sense? And so yes, it is a lot of things that apply to, your own personal protection, how to travel better. I've trained security teams for Congress members, high value assets, things of that nature. So we train you to treat your family and yourself like a high value asset, vice president, a Congress member, a judge, or a general in a foreign country. Like, what's his team do to protect him? That's what we teach you for your family. Those are some of the hard skills. And the personal development is, who are you under pressure? See, I don't put the pressure on. I don't go full drill instructor on people. You've been there. I have fun with your son because he wants to be a Marine, but we're not crawling through the mud, and we're not doing a Navy SEAL experience or something like that. The environment just in itself is enough. You stand online, there's a gun, there's a bullet that comes out. It's life and death, and most people don't operate in that. You'll learn a lot about yourself just standing there with that gun. It's like, ew. And then that's where the personal development side is. Who am I when the pressure's on? And that's a fantastic thing to learn. And we also, part of that personal development is discovering your why. Why would you take a class like this? Why do you want to be more capable? Why do you want to be a better person? What's your why? You know, I don't do helmets. I don't do night vision. I don't run around and play like team on a Navy SEAL. There's plenty of good guys that do that. I think it's awesome. Go have fun. You know, I love to do it to have fun. But, you know, what I do particularly is like, I've got me, it's 2 a.m. and somebody kicked in my door and my family's here. What do I do and who am I? So
Yep.
that's where personal protection means personal development. And then many people change their life and it affects many areas of their life.
Yeah.
You know, have a wife come through and all of a sudden the husband's there, the husband start, and we've had people UK, New York, LA, like this was their journey. And I know recently, and they were like, I would have never thought I'm the person like out here on a gun range. And it was more the personal development side of it. And of course they live in Florida, so it's the land of freedom now, so they can get crazy like the Wild West. But it's that part that's more gratifying. We had a young lady a couple of years back, and it's what gets me out of bed. Victim of rape, really closed off her life, 30 years old, live with her mom, work home. Did a few workshops. About a year later, she bought this camper van and was like, I had enough of living in a room. I'm going to see the country. Like in a year, she went from not being able to leave her house to like traveling in a van and sending me pictures. I'm like, yes, girl, like that's what this is about. And when I have a bad day, I remember those. Like, look, if I don't go to work, somebody else doesn't have their life. Like I have to do what I'm doing, you know? So however that looks for others that come through, everybody gets what they get out of it, but I guarantee it's one hell of an experience.
It is. It is. Cool.
Well, Dave, could I ask you one here? I mean, and we'll let you go here shortly,
Sure.
but you know, what's some of the things outside of just doing this with your son? I mean, what's your son say about it? He's not here, so I'd like to hear this juicy part.
Well, I'll answer for him first, and then I'll answer for myself. He loves it. He brags about all his friends. Brags about it to all his friends. Honestly, you probably will get other father sons through over time from his salesmanship of what's going on, because he thinks it's super cool. I can see just in him his own confidence level in terms of just like you said. I mean, he came into the room with I think a good head on his shoulders,
Mhm.
but I think what he's doing is reinforcing all of that, right? And your interaction specifically with him, because you do treat him like an adult, and he wants to be treated like an adult, right? Like he wants that. Like that's his main thing in life. He's ever since he was like 7 or 8 years old, he wanted to be treated like an adult all the time. It's just his personality. That's just how he is. And so he admires you and like what you do and like what you're teaching him, because he sees it getting him where he wants to go, you know, and in life. And for me, I mean, this whole conversation we had today, this is what I am. This is who I am. All this philosophical stuff and figuring out what we are as humans and how we're trying to, you know, get through things. When I signed up to take the course, I did it because I wanted to workshop. I did it because I wanted to be with my son, and I like shooting. I've been shooting since I was a kid. I'm comfortable with it. It's not like something that was totally foreign. But when we that first workshop, when we started to talk about all this sort of stuff we just talked about for the last hour, I was like, oh, this is what it's really about, you know. Because I'm a I was telling Joey just yesterday, I've been a philosophy major, graduated. I have a finance degree and all these other things too, but the philosophy is what I really think of myself as. I think of myself as a modern day philosopher, really wanting to apply what my experience in the world is and learn from my experience and try to like create a structure that I can kind of like convey to other people, just like you're doing, you know. And when I see others with a passion for that same mission, I guess you could say, to get out there and help people achieve like the story you just told about the woman traveling the country or whatever. I have my own versions of that story. Maybe like and I know what you mean, like to be able to impact somebody's life, like that's what's most important to me, you know? And so again, I just really connected with you and with the content, beyond the tactical stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So thank you. I appreciate it. And that's why Winston and I are going to go all the way through the whole program through level 5 and beyond, whatever else we can do with you guys. So
I love it. On that note, I did the personal stuff. It is a series of workshops 1 through 5 right now. I bring in other Marines, plural, that I served with. And what they, and myself, and what we did was like embassy protection. You know, all embassies are protected by Marines. So in and out of the embassy. And we find that if that translates to the civilian world the most. You're in a car, you're with your loved one. What do I do with them? Like that, outside of teamwork and everything. And those guys might be by themselves or 2 people or, something of that nature. It depends on, where it is and what it is. But we find that to be the most relevant. If you do stick through all 5 of the series, you have a civilian version of Embassy Protection School, literally the same skills, driving, like all types of things. I don't want to give away the specific details of every workshop because I like it to come in as a new experience. We get, more capability from everyone, but the entire series as a whole is that. How do I travel the world? Not just here. So we do traveling, we do embassies, we do as an American citizen, we teach you what's available to you overseas. Do you know, like, okay, I am in Italy or something and something happened. Well, what do you do? Makes sense. So we train you not just for here in the States, but international and how to travel the world and do all that freedom for yourself, So the whole series is based on that high value asset protection. And then all along that way, you will just learn a lot about yourself. And that's the main goal for sure.
yeah, cool.
What a delightful conversation.
Thank you. It's very nice to
Thank
meet you.
you. It's a pleasure to meet you. You've really opened my eyes to a lot, and I'm very moved and very grateful. Thank you.
What did I hear? You coming to Florida soon? I guess she's going to be in one.
Yeah, I visit. More and
Or-
more of my family and friends are gravitating toward Florida, so I might
Joey,
be spending more time there.
when was the last time you went shooting, Joey?
I have never once been shooting.
I've got cabins on my ranch, by the way. I have a private facilities. You can come and hang out in the cabin.
I'm actually very interested now.
Okay, we'll touch base after. I would love to
Okay.
have you as my guest.
We'll work that out.
That
That
sounds
would be
good.
fun. That'd be good. That'd be fun to do.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
I'll see you in a couple of weeks, I'm sure. And then otherwise, thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. It was nice
Pleasure.
seeing you.
meet
Nice
you,
meeting you.
Alex.
Bye now.
See you later.
I enjoyed that very much.
What an amazing person, right?
He was not what I expected at all.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah.
guy.
Thank you for asking him. He said
Yeah.
a lot of very thought-provoking stuff.
Yeah, I like my favorite one was plan B is the best plan or something
Yes,
like that.
yes.
That's been my experience as well, that it's never plan A, it's always plan B.
And
Actually.
that's what we, it speaks to what we've been talking about a lot, you and I. The what I think is a failure is actually not.
Yes.
It's not the failure. It's just the jumping off point for the big, better thing.
Exactly. All right, cool.
Fantastic.
All right, well, that was fun. Thank you. I'll see you later.
Productive day. See you later. Bye.
Have a good one.